Let's get started. I have to sit down because otherwise I can. Can you hear me in the mic? Maybe you can hear me. Okay, but I have to sit down, which will make me almost invisible. So please, just to start, my name is Luca. I work for Google, part of the global partnerships team. I've been working with publishers for quite a while. All good? Okay. I've been working with publishers for quite a while on a number of initiatives that touch the world of publishing and a number of platforms that allow them to distribute their content on Google canvases. This session is about accelerated mobile pages, which is an initiative that we have embraced and we have contributed to grow over the last year and a half. Let's keep this morning very interactive. So if you have curiosity, questions, if you need clarification, just raise your hand and I'll be happy to stop and answer your questions. I think it's much better if to address your questions than just to go through the slides. So please, let's keep it interactive. It's early morning and we're going to have fun. Again, apologies for sitting down. So accelerated mobile pages, not many of you are familiar with them. What are they? They are accelerated mobile pages, as the word says, or AMPs. So the way this started is when a year and a half ago, a lot of people started taking a hard look at the mobile experience. Mobile today is pervasive. It's our life. We spend our life on mobile phones. You have them all in your hands at all points in time, even now. So the web has become largely mobile. When we talk to publishers especially, they all now report that the majority of their traffic is coming through mobile devices. Now, how is the experience of browsing the web on mobile? Well, a year and a half ago, it was pretty bad. Pretty bad. A colleague of ours, Richard Jengers, VP of News, very interestingly and funnily said, we used to refer to surfing the web as navigating through the web and reading through the pages, but surfing the web really has become a very painful experience, much more similar to walking in the mud rather than surfing the web. So the web on mobile has not evolved to become a very pleasant experience. A year and a half ago, there was the painful realization that it was subpar, and something had to be done about it to make it fast again, and to make it pleasant again, and to rebuild the level of engagement that we were used to on the web with very fast mobile pages. Problems are slow loading pages because they are thought and designed for desktop as opposed to mobile, so very heavy. Content that didn't adapt to mobile screens, to smaller screens. It was just designed for the desktop and didn't fit in a smaller screen. And very often, problems with the loading of the page that would make content move around as people were reading through it. It's sometimes the case today where you open a page, the page loads, you start reading through content, then an ad kicks in or an image kicks in, the content moves down, you go down to chase it, and all of a sudden it shifts back up again. Bit of a disaster. So nobody was happy about this, right? The statistics, the users didn't like it or don't like it. The numbers of people who abandon pages because they don't load fast enough are impressive. They just disappear. Of course, wait 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and off you go. You just go back, say, hey, I'll come back later if I have time. So users weren't happy, but in reality, nobody was happy. Publishers lost users, lost readers, anybody lost users. And once the web had become so slow and painful, in reality, the economic ecosystem around it, of course, didn't find its returns. So something had to be done about it. The AMP initiative is founded on those premises. And at the core, it has the mission of recreating a beautiful, fast, open source mobile experience where the pages are beautiful, so they adapt to the screen size, they load fast, they make fruition of the content or fruition of the page itself very, very easy and frictionless, and that allows people to monetize well. The companies around it, be it the publishers, e-commerce providers, you name it, to monetize really well. That is at the core of accelerated mobile pages. So it's a way of redesigning and rebuilding pages for mobile that makes them fast and beautiful and portable. So that's the open source and open web element to it. These are the 4 tenets of accelerated mobile pages, and they hold today very much, and they are still the guiding pillars of everything that is done around accelerated mobile pages. Users have a vested interest. Pages are fast. Companies, publishers have a vested interest. They make sure that that their content is displayed correctly. And one important element is that it's an open technology. So it's the web. It's not proprietary technology. It's not behind a walled garden. It's an open initiative. It's part of the web. It's built on HTML, on very, very common technologies, so it remains an open ecosystem that anybody can participate to and contribute to. Very important. How does it work? The foundation of it is that pages used to be very heavy because they used to carry a lot of code with them. So every page from a different publisher used to carry specific code, specifically JavaScript code, that would execute within the page and recreate interactivity just like an app. So every time you had to load a page, then the mobile device would load the code, execute the code, and then generate the page out of that code. It made it very, very heavy, and it made it very slow. Accelerated mobile pages are built on the principle that code, having such different code and code for different pages, is redundant and not necessary. So AMPs share a common base of code that is executed only once. So from a lot of lines of code, very different from different publishers that executed at every point in time, when you loaded a page, there is one very simple library of code that is centralized and that the page refers to and is downloaded once and is fast and optimized for speed. That's the technological foundation of accelerated mobile pages. Around it is HTML. End of it. Very simple, very basic. In fact, if you think about it this way, you could actually say that the speed that accelerated mobile pages achieve is that we experience in the early days of the web, when the pages were very simple, they were HTML, and they were just very light and very fast. So we are back to the time when the web was great and the web was fast, by simplifying and by making it much more rational and optimizing it. I'll stop there for a second. Any need for clarification? Cool. So, simpler pages. By doing this, pages are lighter and are faster intrinsically, but there is an additional element that can be added onto it. The fact that they are simpler and they have an easier structure means that they can also be pre-rendered, right? One of the problems that very interactive pages have today is that the page itself has to interpret the position of where the elements go dynamically. It doesn't really know where they sit before loading the page. That's why you see the elements of the page shift around very often. With accelerated mobile pages, that doesn't happen. So the page has a structure that is well defined ahead of time, which means that it can be pre-rendered. So servers can read the code and already understand where the elements will sit. So a page can be loaded before it is served. So before a user clicks on a page, the page can be already constructed. And once the user clicks on the page, then all of a sudden the page pops up. And rather than waiting for seconds, the page becomes instantaneous. So in fact, I know you have mobile phones in your hand. I want to propose a test, if you may. So pick up your phone. This is the pre-rendering that I was talking about. Pick up your phone, and I would tell you, if you open a browser and open Google, unfortunately, they weren't that great news this morning, waiting for us. But do your favorite query, something that you're really, really keen to know about. I'm going to look for Juventus, just to cheer myself up. And then, so if you search for your favorite topic, you may, if it's a topic of news, you may bump into a carousel of images and news. And at the bottom of each card, there is a lightning symbol. So when you see that lightning symbol, just tap on the page. Tap on that card. So when I tap it, the page loads in an instant. There is no wait, there's no 2 seconds, 1 second, 15 seconds. It's absolutely instantaneous. That's an accelerated mobile page. Yeah? So that's the experience. That's the web made great again and made blazingly fast. Yeah?
What does it have to do with Facebook? I know it's your competitor. I know it's your competitor, but what does it have to do with Facebook instant articles? The idea is the same, I guess.
Not really. So they're completely different things. I think both are founded on the notion of speed, making sure that the content is accessible very, very quickly. There is a very different approach behind them, where accelerated mobile pages are built on the open web. So it's an open source initiative, and it's technology that is available to anybody, and it's accelerated mobile pages are built on standards that allow the pages themselves to be distributed anywhere, on any platform. That's the main difference with the instant articles, because instant articles are made on proprietary language. So accelerated mobile pages can, and we'll see some of that, but they can be used, and they are being used by a variety of distribution platforms, whereas instant articles effectively sit only on Facebook. And the work that you do on AMPs, you do for all these platforms. The work that you do for instant articles, you only do for Facebook. So that's the foundation. It started 1.5 years ago. It was the middle of 2015 when we announced it, and early 2016 when it was launched, and accelerated mobile pages went live. How is it going? It's going really, really, really well. So the numbers are staggering. The number of publishers or companies that have embraced AMPs is impressive. We're almost at 1 million domains that produce accelerated mobile pages. We're almost at 2 billion AMPs produced until now, with 35 million pages published every week. So it's just a thriving ecosystem, and extremely impressive numbers of actors are using AMPs for their mobile strategies. The momentum behind the initiative itself, from the technological perspective and the contribution perspective, is also impressive. The initiative is really based on this open source and open collaboration between distribution platforms, technology platforms, publishers, and companies that use the web to reach customers or readers, and contributors, a community of people who simply provide the code, provide the input to make AMP evolve, and develop. It's really a thriving ecosystem that everyone's very proud to be part of. The evolution of accelerated mobile pages has been impressive. When we launched, the idea was to make sure that we could go live with the basics, the foundation. Priority was given, of course, to the content, right? The first point is users access a page to read a content or to see what's in it. So basics was, let's make sure that the page can do that quickly and beautifully. So with the ability to provide good design and good layout. Images are a big part of a web experience, so there was attention given to graphics, but beyond that, there wasn't a lot, and that was the beginning. Of course, ad support was important because ad is one of the pillars of monetization on the web, and companies and publishers have to find their ROI, so there was support for ads, and there was also support for paywalls, but not right at the beginning, just slightly after the launch. So this was the basic. Since then, and it's been a year, the progress has been staggering. So more and more advanced functionalities have been added, the ability to create menus, the ability to update pages live with AMP live lists, so pages that have to be refreshed can now be refreshed, the ability to add in the main templates and design functionalities that you see on the web, lists, so on and so forth. These have all been added over time. On the distribution front, we started off with a set of initial partners that embraced AMPs, and that list has grown over time. Bing is one that very quickly has embraced accelerated mobile pages. Very recently, Yahoo Japan embraced accelerated mobile pages, so they start serving those pages. And in China, Baidu, so the main search engine, has announced that they will support accelerated mobile pages. So it is seen as a standard that is becoming more and more and more pervasive across the world. And I think everyone's very proud of that. Not to forget Tumblr, that just announced that they are going to support in this quarter, so in the second quarter of the year, AMPs for all their blogs. And that is going to bring a lot of pages live on AMPs. That's on the distribution front. On the technology front, over time, a lot of technology providers and tech integrators have started building components within the AMP framework that can allow companies to find the exact functionalities that they normally use on the web or on standard mobile pages in the AMP code and in the AMP framework. They're now in the hundreds, and they cover all sorts of functionalities that are intrinsic to the web. So analytics, ad servers, video formats, video companies. All sorts of technology providers have embraced AMP and have created components within the AMP ecosystem to make sure that everything works properly. So you can create today an AMP page that is pretty much identical to an old yet slower mobile page. It started off with news. Initially, it was just very simple content, static content, a big part of the web, so the first one that was tackled, but with the addition of functionalities, the importance of AMP became quite clear beyond the world of news. So in recent times, we've seen great traction from e-commerce, or within the e-commerce space, or from e-commerce provider, where everybody absolutely understands the importance of speed, right? People with fast pages buy more than with slower pages, of course. And when we asked our partners about the results, what are you seeing in terms of impact of AMPs when you embrace AMPs? The results are very, very positive. Snapdeal is an e-commerce provider, which we were just talking about that. And the conversion, which is everything, the most important element in e-commerce. Conversions, of course, increase with speed. And the impact is, of course, unbelievable. LinkedIn, Terra, Media Company, Washington Post, all publishers see increase in click-throughs, increase in repeat visits, and increases in engagement. So overall, very positive.
You can find with Facebook instant articles, if I'm not saying.
Hold your thoughts for a second. I think you need to. There you go.
We see the same effects, same positive effects of AMP for our news articles. Yep. Increase in return users, for instance, increase in average time spent. But we didn't see the same with Facebook instant articles for some reason. It's actually a similar product, yep. But AMP works.
I'm glad you have a very good experience. So, excellent. Thanks for sharing. Every time that comparison is brought up, I actually think that the real main point, which was that we really touched upon earlier, is that when you build an AMP, that AMP can go anywhere. Right? So you don't do it for just one specific goal. It's really a new way to build mobile pages that serves the purpose of a better mobile experience. So it's not just connected to a platform, it's connected to all platforms, as you've seen. And we're seeing more and more companies and publishers embrace AMPs for their own purposes. So I was having a conversation with a broadcaster, in fact, 2 days ago, who was saying, look, we're going to build a website on AMP, and that is it. Today, until today, it's often been the case that AMP pages were a companion page to possibly a responsive site, but a companion page, and they're now becoming more and more the canonical page, so the only page that publishers have. They are responsive, so they will adapt to screen sizes. They will work on desktop, but they're faster and lighter. So what's next? Great momentum, great traction, great numbers. Where do we go now? Well, the momentum will not stop. So there will be progress, and there will be more progress along the 4 pillars that I mentioned before. Speed, the technology and functionality, and the monetization. So a few things worth mentioning. One is we're making it easier and easier for developers to create accelerated mobile pages and to make sure that they have the right design and the right functionalities for them. There is 2 resources that are important. Some people in the room are interested. One is AMP by Example, which is a set of tutorials that allow us to indicate and to show what things can be built and how very, very quickly. And that's available on the main website, ampproject.org. The second set of resources is ampstart.com, which is something that we published very, very recently, and that's a set of templates that publishers can just tap into, copy-paste into their servers to build very, very beautiful pages for themselves. So much easier to embrace and much easier to build. Second pillar, or going back to our basics, is actually the first pillar, is speed. Today, the median speed of AMPs is under 1 second. The old web, or the old mobile web, saw a median speed between 5 and 15 seconds. That's how big the gap is and the difference is. Well, this year we want to, or in the next 12 months, we want to bring that median speed down to below half a second. So cut it in half. which is going to be an impressive achievement. And then we're going to keep working on the interactivity side. We started very basic, very static. We added functionalities, menus, bullet points, ability to update pages live. And now we want to keep adding functionalities that go towards the interactivity to make sure that every desire of publishers can be represented. You see some examples here of parallax experiments, enhance image galleries. As we said, graphics and visuals are an important part of a browsing experience. So we have teams working on that. But probably the most important part is interactivity for more complicated and complex problems, such as those that are intrinsic to, for example, e-commerce. If you think about e-commerce, where you may have for a specific product a set of colors, sizes, and a combination of prices that have to work together in order to guarantee a good purchasing experience, that is coming. So AMP Bind is one of the components of AMP that is about to be released that will allow to do just that. So we're in the process of really making or achieving full total parity and possibly beyond with what's possible on responsive standard mobile pages, but fast and faster and better. As I said, companies are starting to embrace AMPs as their canonical page. So rather than having it as a companion, it's going to be their main page because of the benefits that it provides. We're seeing more and more of that, and it's just a beautiful experience that allows companies to tap into the metrics that we saw in terms of re-engagement, in terms of click-throughs. If you're familiar with something called progressive web apps, which is an additional platform or technology framework that allows to turn mobile sites into, or allows them to add functionalities that are normally proper to apps. PWA stands for Progressive Web Apps, so turns web sites into apps with the same functionalities of apps, for example, by adding notifications or the ability to work offline, or the ability to add a shortcut to the home screen of a phone. So these things are intrinsic to progressive web apps, while AMP can provide the foundation of the pages of a progressive web app. So we're seeing the AMPs being used as canonical pages and being used as part of progressive web apps because they just sit so well together. And to close, one of the elements that was mentioned at the beginning, of course, monetization has to be there, right? Advertising today powers a lot of the web, is the monetization of the web. And without monetization, there wouldn't be the web. It's economic activity, and we understand very well that publishers have to find a return in what they publish, so advertising is an intrinsic part of it. Now, advertising has been sort of a sour point. Definitely was at the beginning. It is still the case. It is still a bit of a sour point today. But a very important element of this initiative. AMP solved the problem of invasive advertising because due to the fact that the structure of the page is known in advance, ads, the position of ads and the dimension of ads is also known in advance. So ads can be, or pages can be served with a placement for ads that doesn't cause disruption. Yet, in doing so, AMP hasn't solved yet the problem of speed of ads. So the goal is to change that and make sure that ads become a very pleasant experience again. A lot of us, I think, believe that advertising can be beautiful. It can be useful, and it can be beautiful, it can be pleasant, it can be fun, and it can be interesting. We just have to get to that stage. We just have to get to that place. So today, as I said, there's still gaps. Whether or you know what's behind the ad serving technology or not, you should know that when an ad is called by a page, so a page loads and sends a request to an ad server, say, hey, send me an ad, please. That request triggers sometimes hundreds or 100 plus queries to an ad server. So the ad server starts thinking about what ad should be served. And it does so in a variety of ways that are often very complicated and very slow. And then when it returns an ad, the ad is often not optimized for the screen where it's going to be served. It's often very heavy, and therefore loads slowly. So within the AMP framework, what happens is, hey, the page renders really well, but there is a hole in the middle. There's a white space in the middle. That's what you see on the screen, and that's what we've started seeing. So today, the median load time for ads is 4 seconds. So we've created a page that loads in under 1, but an ad is served 3 seconds later, median. Not ideal. One of the things that we've done in the meantime is, well, other than having a wide space, let's just show that something is going to come, that an ad is going to be served. But the truth is that in reality, we'd love to turn or apply the same thinking and the same approach that we've used on AMP, apply them to ads. And that's when AMP ads came about. So AMP ads are ads that load instantaneously with the same benefit of the AMP technology. It requires loads of changes along the chain of the advertising industry. So it's something that requires changes in ad servers or in ad serving technology and the agencies and the ecosystem behind them. But the goal is to do that, make sure that the ads can be requested and triggered very quickly, can be served very quickly, are known in size and optimized for speed, so that they can be just picked up together with the page. The result is what you see on the screen. So there is companies that have already embraced it. One company is called Triple Lift. They do native advertising in the United States. They have started working on this approach. They have implemented it and built it into their systems. And the results that they've seen are really impressive. So it's ads that load 6 times faster, 3 times lighter, with much increased viewability. End result, more money. Yeah. I think we have a question.
2 questions. One, do you think this AMP ad can stop the ad blocking trend that we've seen in the last years? And second is a little bit, let's say, un po' una domanda cattiva. Yeah. Why you as Google are using so much resources for an open source tool like AMP? What do you earn from this? I mean, you're not a no-profit organization.
Yeah, it's a very fair question. So, so the ad blocking is a very interesting one. Very, very interesting one. Ad blocking technology, of course, is widespread, right? People, users, there's a percentage of users or percentage of web traffic that is seen using ad blocking technology is not only increasing, but has reached very high levels, which is a reason for concern, because ads effectively are the monetization engine of a lot of people and publishers. Publishers that do not have a return will stop being publishers because they can't pay the resources. So it's a reason for concern. When you ask people why they install ad blockers, one of the main reasons is speed of pages loading. And the second one is intrusiveness and overall sort of negative ad experience that they that they have to go through, have to bear with. AMP ads should solve both. So that's the belief. And interesting that you refer to ad blockers, because when we talk about AMP ads in our technical forums, the goals that we give ourselves for that initiative are exactly referring to ad blocking technology, as in we want to make sure that pages with an ad render at faster speed than if they had an ad blocker installed. So in fact, the two can be measured. So we can load the same page with an ad blocker and without an ad blocker, and the goal is to make sure that the page can fully load with all its elements, including ads, faster than if it had an ad blocker. That's really the goal. And once ads become a more pleasant experience that is uncumbersome and doesn't slow the page down, and we haven't talked about the cost of data, right? Because that's another element, right? By downloading ads that are heavy, you increase the cost of data traffic, so that's an additional element that contributes to all this thinking. But once we solve these problems, we believe that the problem of ad blockers will be significantly reduced. And I'm talking for the publishers and the monetization of a healthy news ecosystem and publisher ecosystem. So that's part number one. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Part number two is, well, Google has always thrived on an open web. So this is an initiative that I think aligns the interests of all parties involved. Users get a great experience. Publishers will find their monetization tools. E-commerce, if we were talking about that, get better click-throughs, better conversion rates. And an open ecosystem will benefit all the actors of that open ecosystem, including Google. Not only Google, there's a lot of Bing has embraced it, Yahoo Japan has embraced it, Baidu has embraced it. And going back to the position of Google with regards to an open initiative, I want to say that it's been pretty much the case all the time, that we believe in that open ecosystem, we believe in the open web. We've founded and found our success in the open web, and we'll keep working on that. Yes? Yeah, excuse me. Please.
Oh, hello. It's Mariano here from Buenos Aires.
Yep.
I have two questions. I would love to know if you have something on the roadmap. I know that, but basically, I think that you've heard about this. One is about interactive content. How are you dealing with interactive? I know that there is an iframe component, and if you can explain a little bit more. And the other thing is about metrics, which is some...
Sorry, the second thing is?
Metrics. How do you integrate Google Analytics metrics on AMP with other sources of publishing, which is sometimes complicated? Okay.
So without going into too much technical detail, because I am probably not the right person to go into too much technical detail, and some folks may be lost. Iframe is a way to carve space within a page to bring in code or elements that can be executed or can be rendered outside of the AMP framework, code framework. So, and it was a way that was used, especially at the beginning, to allow pages to do things that the AMP code base wouldn't allow publishers to do. So a lot of the interactivity just had to go through iframes. So the page just loads with its structure, and then there's a hole, and it says, hey, in this hole, just go and pick up these other elements that sit elsewhere. Iframes were working, but a little bit clunky, because they would be executed with some delay after the page first rendered and became visible. Over time, what we've tried to do is actually add the functionalities that would sit in an iframe and just bring them back into the code base of of accelerated mobile pages. We've done that progressively, increasingly, and will be continue to do so. So the feeling is, or the belief is that over time, iframes should not be necessary. Will be less and less and less and less so until they will just simply become totally unnecessary. And in order to do that, what needs to happen is that the community continues to build new functionalities for AMPs, and the third-party technology providers contribute their components to AMP. It's an open source initiative, so anybody can do that. There is a community of developers. Developers go in and say, hey, this is really something that should be part of this. I'd like to develop it. I'd like to write the code. I'd like to make it part of it. They can provide that contribution. So any technology party can do that. They provide their contribution. The contribution is validated, embraced, and is built into that code base. So I would expect iframes to, over time, disappear or become less and less necessary. I forgot the point two, apologies.
Metrics.
For the metrics, so analytics and metrics have been a part of the stuff that initially, so there was some analytics support at the beginning. Google Analytics was one case because we were able to ask the team to embrace it quickly and to build a component for AMP very quickly. We developed a generic AMP analytics component also very, very quickly. So it's something that was brought into the platform quite early. In recent times, some people have flagged that our analytics logic could be improved, so we're working to do that. But the analytics is, of course, a part of the page. I mean, it's, of course, a part of the web experience and should fully support your goals.
But you know that there is a kind of overlapping of information between what's going on AMP and what's going on regular analytics. So it's hard for publishers to so
combine. We're working on that, and it will be improved in a way that makes the I think the analytics just easier to understand. Yeah, please. So in reality, okay, the presentation can just sit on the side because we went through all the content. Happy to take questions. Yes.
My question is, as I say, for Turkish news publishers, AMP is increasingly important. But we see a problem as I'm from the largest newspaper in Turkey, as I say, Hürriyet. And this smaller, especially, I mean, this AMP, after all, is like a menu, right? So it's like an editorial decision by Google to present for certain keywords a news carousel. So I know that humans are not behind it, it's all algorithms, etc. But for the Turkish content, the Google algorithm sometimes works really awfully. Because, for instance, just last week, as Turkey is moving towards a key referendum on constitutional amendments, the carousel of AMP is full of, for instance, when you search for the main opposition leader, all the pro-government news websites that are actually smearing the main opposition leader, and Google is highlighting it with AMP. While, for instance, mainstream newspapers like us, and there are few of them left actually, are left out. It might be some technical fault from our side, because in the start last year it was quite good. We were almost always appearing. For instance, breaking news, the Turkish translation of breaking news is an important keyword in Turkish, because people always search for this. It's always a huge traffic. So having quality content there is much more important for this keyword. For English, I think it's not so important, the breaking news keywords, but for Turkish, its translation is so important. And whenever we look, we really see all those, propaganda things, smear, hate speech, showing people as targets to certain segments of society by these really fringe websites, and it causes problems. Do you have any?
So you're touching on a number of things. So let me tackle them one by one. on search engine optimization or indexing, AMP doesn't play a role. Our knowledge or our understanding of the web is not based on the format. It's based on the content of the page. And as I was saying today, until today, AMP pages are still often companion pages to a main page that is often used for desktop and mobile, is responsive, and has its own tags and content. So our understanding of the web is based on the canonical page, right? Not on the AMP page. And the algorithms works on that one. So AMP doesn't have a role. The carousel that you're referring to sits on top of that understanding. The understanding is based on the content of the canonical page without any connection to whether it's an AMP page or not. Then the AMP page is used to power the carousel. But the sequence, the order of priority is not connected to AMP, so there is no role there.
But desktop, we don't have a problem for the desktop PC version. I mean, the PC desktop version, we have no such problem. It's good,
Okay.
but only...
Okay, I wouldn't be able to comment on that because I would have to see it, but there shouldn't be a difference, in fact. With regards to sources, a lot of sources, more or less relevant for a given query, appearing together with more established sources, possibly like yours, that is the open web. So which is founded on the freedom of people to publish content that can then be understood and presented. We spent years, and we still spend an amazing amount of time trying to refine our understanding of content and our understanding of queries of people in order to respond correctly to the questions that people ask to Google. And in fact, we actually live by it. Right? The user's trust is our greatest asset, so we constantly strive to make sure that these things work. We don't take this lightly. So there is a constant evolution to make sure that we do that well. The fact that there may be an amazing variety of sources is just part of the web itself. In some countries we have, I want to say, particular difficulties, or actually users may experience more fragmented reading experiences, not because of Google, not because of our understanding of the web, but because of SEO strategies put in place by a variety of publishers. And based on my knowledge of Turkey, I did some work there, it is often the case. It is often the case. So I think Turkey is just a very complicated news environment, a news ecosystem with a lot of people trying to build on top of other people's content, etc., etc. You touch on the problem of fake news, which merits a conversation in and of itself. And in fact, today, Richard Gingras, our VP of News, is at 4 o'clock. I forget the location, but he's talking about our view of our role within the news ecosystem, and that's one of the things that he's going to touch upon. So I would encourage you to attend that talk. The problem of fake news is very, very complicated and very, very complex. One of the things that we do to make sure that people have a good understanding of the content that they read is try to portray the content for what it is. And one of the things that, for example, publishers can use is a tag called fact-checking that allows them to tell the world, look, this has been validated. This is facts as opposed to these are opinions. But the topic of fake news is, I think, a much greater one that deserves bigger scrutiny. Yeah. Other questions? No? So I will simply close by saying that the 4 pillars still guide us. Speed, technology, easier, monetization, and open source, and we'll continue to build on those, making sure that the community that has a reason around the AMP initiative continues to thrive. We're one of the main contributors, but by far not the only contributor. It's a really thriving community, and we really hope to see the number of AMP-powered domains and AMP pages to continue to climb. If you have specific questions and you want to reach out after the talk, I'm happy to take those. Thank you. Is founded on those premises, and at the core, it has the mission of recreating a beautiful, fast, open source mobile experience where the pages are beautiful, so they adapt to the screen size, they load fast, they make fruition of the content or fruition of the page itself very, very easy and frictionless, and that allows people to monetize well. The companies around it, be it the publishers, e-commerce providers, you name it, to monetize really well. That is at the core of accelerated mobile pages. So it's a way of redesigning and rebuilding pages for mobile that makes them fast and beautiful and portable. So that's the open source and open web element to it. These are the 4 tenets of accelerated mobile pages, and they hold today very much, and they are still the guiding pillars of everything that is done around accelerated mobile pages. Users have a vested interest. Pages are fast. Companies, publishers have a vested interest. They make sure that that their content is displayed correctly. And one important element is that it's an open technology. So it's the web. It's not proprietary technology. It's not behind a walled garden. It's an open initiative. It's part of the web. The way this started is when a year and a half ago, a lot of people started taking a hard look at the mobile experience. Mobile today is pervasive. It's our life. We spend our life on mobile phones. You have them all in your hands at all points in time, even now. So the web has become largely mobile. When we talk to publishers especially, they all now report that the majority of their traffic is coming through mobile devices. Now, how is the experience of browsing the web on mobile? Well, a year and a half ago, it was pretty bad. Pretty bad. A colleague of ours, Richard Jengers, VP of News, very interestingly and funnily said, we used to refer to surfing the web as navigating through the web and reading through the pages, but surfing the web really has become a very painful experience, much more similar to walking in the mud rather than surfing the web. So the web on mobile has not evolved to become a very pleasant experience. A year and a half ago, it was the painful realization that it was subpar, and something had to be done about it to make it fast again and to make it pleasant again, and to rebuild the level of engagement that we were used to on the web with very, very fast mobile pages. Let's get started. I have to sit down because otherwise I can't. Can you hear me in the mic? Maybe you can hear me. Okay, but I have to sit down, which will make me almost invisible. So please, just to start, my name is Luca. I work for Google, part of the global partnerships team. I've been working with publishers for quite a while. All good? Okay. I've been working with publishers for quite a while on a number of initiatives that touch the world of publishing and a number of platforms that allow them to distribute their content on Google Canvases. This session is about accelerated mobile pages, which is an initiative that we have embraced and we have contributed to grow over the last year and a half. Let's keep this morning very interactive. So if you have curiosity, questions, if you need clarification, just raise your hand and I'll be happy to stop and answer your questions. I think it's much better if, to address your questions than just to go through the slides. So please, let's keep it interactive. It's early morning and we're going to have fun. Again, apologies for sitting down. So accelerated mobile pages, not many of you are familiar with them. What are they? They are accelerated mobile pages, as the word says, or AMPs. So the problems are slow loading pages because they are thought and designed for desktop as opposed to mobile. So very, very heavy. Content that didn't adapt to mobile screens, to smaller screens. It was just designed for the desktop and didn't fit in a smaller screen. And very, very often, problems with the loading of the page that would make content move around as people were reading through it. It's sometimes the case today where you open a page, the page loads, you start reading through content, then an ad kicks in or an image kicks in, the content moves down, you go down to chase it, and all of a sudden it shifts back up again. Bit of a disaster. So nobody was happy about this, right? The statistic, the users didn't like it or don't like it. The numbers of people who abandon pages because they don't load fast enough are impressive. They just disappear. Of course, wait 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and off you go. You just go back, say, hey, I'll come back later if I have time. So users weren't happy, but in reality, nobody was happy. Publishers lost users, lost readers, anybody lost users. And once the web had become so slow and painful, in reality, the economic ecosystem around it, of course, didn't find its returns. So something had to be done about it. The AMP initiative is built on HTML, on very, very common technologies, so it remains an open ecosystem that anybody can participate to and contribute to. Very important. How does it work? The foundation of it is that pages used to be very heavy because they used to carry a lot of code with them. So every page from a different publisher used to carry specific code, specifically JavaScript code, that would execute within the page and recreate interactivity just like an app. So every time you had to load a page, then the mobile device would load the code, execute the code, and then generate the page out of that code. It made it very, very heavy, and it made it very slow. Accelerated mobile pages are built on the principle that code, having such different code and code for different pages, is redundant and not necessary. So AMPs share a common base of code that is executed only once. So from a lot of lines of code, very different from different publishers that executed at every point in time, when you loaded a page, there is one very simple library of code that is centralized and that the page refers to and is downloaded once, and